So they're like that.
All right, you can invite, please.
So idea is fine.
You?
Always the last one. Yeah.
Okay. On that man. Right, good.
So it's really version, this would be version 2 then, right?
Okay, 604, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Quorum check, it looks like we have all the planning board members except for Brad are in the room. So we do not need to activate Pat as an alternate tonight, but welcome, Pat. Pat Brenner's on Zoom. She was on Zoom. Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. Yep. Hi, Pat. Brenna.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Brenna's a new alternate on the planning board. This is her first official planning board meeting. Welcome, Pat. Okay. So we do have a quorum. We welcome Pat. Public comment period. This is for items not on the agenda. So if there's anybody who wants to talk about anything that is not on the agenda, we would do that now. Not hearing anything that's not on the agenda? Okay. Moving on. 338 Lower Creek Road, intro.
So this is, Jeannie, want to intro?
Go ahead.
So this is another lot that Joe Clunkworth, who's here in the room, yeah, Joe Clunkworth, is looking to put multiple duplexes, build multiple duplexes on the lot. So it's a 9-acre lot that has a single family home existing on it. It's looking to use section 270-6.7 to show that it is subdividable into 4 lots, so that 3 other duplexes could be built on that. So the reason why it's here and not just a minor subdivision is because the current lot has already been subdivided 4 times. So this is a 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th lot being created. Then it's defined as a major subdivision, and that's within the purview of the planning board. So it's to apply that section 6.7, which we've done in the past, but the difference is it's a major subdivision instead of a minor subdivision.
And that was the case with Mill Creek, right? That became a major subdivision because of size and the number of lots, right?
Yeah,
Similar case, right? I mean, sort of. Because
yeah, that was a very traditional major subdivision. It was 40 lots. So.
But all that subdivision also occurred on town roads without any roads being put on property, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like just like this one would be.
Yep, this is a single common driveway doing across.
Yep.
So the driveway that goes to the single family home would be extended to the 3 new duplexes.
So I had a question. Since I'm kind of new at this. This is the first time I've seen these duplex developments on a big lot. Is this a single owner of the lot, and whoever moves into the duplexes, is that basically apartments? Is that what this is? And if the owner ever wanted to sell it, they would sell the whole lot, all 3 duplexes, right?
Not necessarily. I believe in this case, you are looking at these being rentals, right?
Yeah, this is dedicated to rental.
Right.
Yes.
But the thing we need to look at is, are they subdividable? So if in the future he wanted to sell one of them or more, they could be subdivided out to other lots.
And you'd have to go through that major subdivision
Yes,
process.
Yeah, and we'd have to go through the major subdivision process to do that.
Right. And again, since I'm new, I apologize. I think I had read at one point that when we do these subdivisions, when the original lot was made, there was a septic tank for the primary residence. Are there going to be separate septic tanks for these individual duplexes, or are they connected to city water sewer?
That's gonna be every duplex on septic tank.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
That's on, that's shown on, some of it's shown on the sketch plan.
I see tanks. I saw tanks, but I thought that meant a propane tank.
No,
No, that's a septic tank?
yes.
Ah, okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Other questions?
Well, I guess subdivision is being brought up. I'm just curious, how would for resale, for instance, how would these be subdivided? It seems like they're pretty close together and are you is it being suggested, is the question, can these duplexes be individually parceled off and sold? Because it seems like they wouldn't meet it'd be pretty tricky to do that, I would say, I would think.
It's
Oh,
not,
okay, the green lines are showing that, okay. But still, you know, the setback between, from the green lines that are running between duplexes 1, 2, and 3, would those meet the rural setbacks, the rural residential setbacks?
Yes, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Guys, we did a project approval, I don't know, 4 or 6 months ago, where apparently we gave the applicant the impression that further subdivision and sale was something that they could accomplish, even though that wasn't part of the review. I can't remember what the name of the project was. Yes.
it's up on Snyder Hill Road.
I think we should be clear, we don't know if this would be appropriate to further subdivide the property, and that determination would be made at the time.
So, I mean, in this case, generally, you have a pond in the middle of the flag lot too, right? So we really hard to access that.
Well, I mean, these potential flag lots, lot 3 and lot 2 in particular, to me seemed quite contorted. It doesn't, why would you, I mean, I'm just a little confused about this.
And there's no access to the driveway. That looks weird.
I mean, it's just this long bowling alley, you know, off of the road to those two on the far right. And it's just, it would seem to me to be a pretty strange driveway setup. I'm just not clear how this, it's just, anyway, I'm confused about this. And I'm not sure if we're being asked to think about this with the subdivision. Is that part of the application? I know there were several pieces of documents that I started to read, but I didn't get through to the point where it was talking about subdivision, potential subdivisions.
I would anticipate a future subdivision would necessitate a driveway agreement and easements to assure the existing common driveway would be used to access all 3 flag lots. So I wouldn't anticipate new driveways being put in. You know, as Frank just pointed out, the one in the middle of the pond would be a big bridge project.
Yeah,
There you go. So, but this is within our subdivision law, because you can put multiple lots on, as long as you can make individual lots out of them. You can use multiple dwellings as long as you get them. So this would meet that criteria, so.
We're applying 6.7 and
Yeah.
up to 4 dwellings on a lot is the
And-
site plan review.
And we've done it before, so.
Right now, there is no intent to subdivide these further, right? It's just,
Right.
but they.
No, absolutely
Yeah.
no.
It's confusing in that, to be honest, this picture here, I think the bigger picture is three duplexes on that property.
So I have a question about this. Just look at this, I'm just really trying to absorb this subdivision proposal, you know, where you have the potential flag lot too. You have a bioretention pond that is completely across that midsection. Where are you gonna put a driveway there?
We wouldn't, Ray just said that there's no intent to change the driveways. The flag lots would have agreements to use the existing driveways.
Brad,
From the code of that,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be good.
okay. So 270.11.2 indicates that in order to encourage safe and convenient traffic circulation, the board may require the interconnection of parking areas in adjacent lots via access drives within and between such lots. The board shall require written assurance and or deed restrictions satisfactory to the board, binding the owner and the successors and assignees of the owner to maintain such interconnection of parking areas.
Right, so if this was to be further subdivided in the future. It would be required to have, it would be required to use the common driveway. To access the flag lots.
So is this lot currently in the is an RR district, a rural residential?
Yes.
And when it's divided into 4 separate lots, would it become a NR, a neighborhood residential?
No.
Not necessarily.
Well, that's our next discussion, but at some point, if you only got 2 acres each, you probably shouldn't be setting up a farm on any of these subdivided lots.
I mean, why would you ever sell any of these lots individually? I don't
Yeah.
get it.
They wouldn't. Most
Yeah.
likely.
So why are we even looking at it? Why are we showing it? It just makes no sense to me at all.
I think there was a law, right? We wanted to show.
Hold on.
So
Ray, explain it again,
the
please.
purpose of the section 6.7 was to allow for someone to build multiple dwellings on a single lot for the purposes of renting them and not have to go through the subdivision process. So it was a way to gather density without going through formal subdivision, if it was to be retained in a single ownership.
Right, but the reason we have to look at this is it needs to be configured in a way, as I understand it, it needs to be configured in a way that should there be a desire in the future to subdivide it and sell these off individually, that is at least somewhat possible, right? That's why we're looking at the subdivision lines. He has no intention of subdividing it right now. But the site plan review for this requires that the buildings be configured in a way that if it were to be subdivided in the future, it could be. Right now, there's no intent
No,
of selling them off individually and subdividing and actually subdividing it.
That's good because this map hurts my architectural brain. It really does. Ugh.
I can, again, I can read that section of the code if you like.
Yeah.
So 276.7, density in residential and rural agricultural districts. The maximum number of dwellings that can be built on a lot is equal to the maximum number of conforming lots that could be created if the lot were subdivided in accordance with chapter 240, subdivision of land, as calculated by the town planning director.
Right.
Okay.
So if you wanted to put more on here, that would get very difficult because it would be very, very hard to make conforming lots further than what is being done here.
Couldn't because it's a 2 acre minimum.
Right. Yeah, so you couldn't put any more buildings on this, any more dwellings on this what is it, 9 acre property?
8.66.
8.67, yeah.
Okay. Other questions? And this is just an intro, right? We're not actually approving a sketch plan
He's
tonight.
got to complete the application, so we're just want to get feedback tonight if there's.
So what do we want?
We'd like to see him go.
Right, what do we want to see? I mean, I think one of the things I heard is a little bit more detail on the on layout of things like the septic systems and whatnot. I think the setbacks are noted here. Anything else people would want to see in a site plan review?
Well, I'm just looking at, I only see 2 different sand filters, not 3, so. if
Right, right.
I break these up, where would the third go? So you're not gonna share a sand filter,
It looks like the two do share a sand filter.
and so therefore the convoluted thing that Brad's irritated about doesn't really work. Is where would that go? It can't put it next to a pond.
Yes, I already put application to health department for the sand filter. We did already perk test, and in the 2 weeks I will have a permit, I hope. But separation is most important between pond, septic, between everything. And I meet all this criteria. The separation from the pond to the sand filter, minimum 100 feet. I have a easy 150 to 200. Separation from the well, proposal well, will be more like 200 feet. And if Mother Nature give us good supply with the water, I will have a one well. If not, located on very left corner, left west corner was N66. So will be 200 plus, 300 plus. So basically, after,
A question on the, are those contour lines?
Yes.
yes. So we're good with the health department and septic system. 8-bedroom system, each one.
So I think the duplexes are nice and they look good. I drive by them daily. I think that your
Yeah.
plan works as is, and I can see why the health department would say yes. However, when you're looking at a plan where you're talking about future subdivision, I don't think they work anymore so well because you're sharing wells. Plus, you don't have enough to have them on independent property. So if you're selling your property
Yeah,
and you subdivide, it just doesn't quite work out once you do that. And that's where I was saying.
but until I will be owner and build that, I'm not planning to do this.
Yeah.
That's why I will planning 8-bedroom system, planning one well, planning keep this everything in the one piece. That's my intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is precedent again, if you're looking at the future of this, and I trust you, like I said, it looks really good what you're doing.
Mhm.
Are we approving these flag lots all over the place that allow for just a breakup of these properties just to get your setbacks in place, but not really? I agree with Brad a bit. From the layout perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense if you were to sell these individually.
And we're not, in the site plan review, we're not approving the specific subdivision layout, right? We're just
Correct.
making a
It's not
determination.
stated very-
We're just making a determination.
This is
Can
a
it-
Determination of the subdividability.
Okay, so it would be a future decision that would actually.
Right, if
So-
that subdivision had to happen, they would have to go through a major subdivision review, site plan review, all of that. The only determination we have to make as part of this is it subdividable?
A future planning board may be faced with a decision of an
Right.
applicant coming in for a subdivision. But if the intervening years, we had a increase of our side yard setback to 25 foot, this would not be subdividable then.
Right.
They would have to get a variance if they were able to proceed.
I do think the sand filter is an issue, though, the lack of the third. Where is it?
Well, the way it's laid out here, the two duplexes at the top are, each have their own tank. The
And
two
they're sharing-
tanks.
and they're sharing a
and they're-
filter.
And they're sharing the filter.
But you could never sell a piece of property.
So wouldn't that
So-
necessitate putting in another septic at that time to be able
It,
to
it
subdivide
it could
that?
be, so you'd have to show that area on the plat, I guess, for that particular lot.
Okay.
So, I mean, the well's not an issue, but shared septics in New York are not for individual sales, I don't.
Right,
think that
you,
the
you
banks-
can, you can have a deed with a shared well,
But the septic, the
You can't.
banks don't like it,
you can, you know.
yeah. So I don't know how you'd wiggle that on there, but if is that part of our criteria, or is that, we're just looking at what the dwelling?
Well, it sounds to me our criteria is to say, well, in the future, this could be subdividable in some way and fashion, but right now it seems so, so.
So you think that it should have a complete
I mean, if you
infrastructure
can't-
package?
If you can't put in another sand filter somewhere without encroaching upon that pond, how do you do it?
Right, right. Go back to the drawing board.
If it were, to- yeah,
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I dropped out because of my connection, but I was asking about the contours. I don't know if those are 10-foot or 5-foot or 2-foot contours on the map. It shows the proposed site plan. There's not much information about that.
It's 10 foot every drive.
10 foot? Okay. And then where the light fixtures are concerned, are there cut sheets? Can we see what the plan is there? Because I see there are a couple out at the driveway where it connects to the road.
Well, that's something we'd want to see as we did the site plan review, right?
Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. These are things that are just coming to mind.
Yep, any lighting, are you gonna do any signage, like, is this gonna be like an apartment complex with signage out front, or is it?
You know, good apartment don't need sign.
I know, I'm just asking if there's gonna be signage, because if there is signage, the point is if you're gonna put signage up, it would need to be on the site plan.
Yeah, I means what I got the other, it means almost bordering other apartment. And I have a nice great stone with numbers and that's it. That's it,
Right.
you know, and couple spot solar lights. That's what,
Right.
what show.
Okay,
And if the picture can show, this is what we're gonna build and I build another one, so.
so include that, include that. We would likely have questions, I mean, there's the whole site plan review information.
Yeah, you'd have
So you know what we have, so. Is there anything else people want to see on the site? Because we're not making a decision on this site plan tonight, it's really just. Giving them feedback about what might be a problem, which I think we have. And then, you know,
The answer questions 1 through 30.
yeah.
I'm just design wise, I'm wondering, you know, these three duplex, you know, it's a good looking building, design, but why are they so close to each other? Could 3 and 1 be spread out a little bit? I mean, on those proposed future subdivision, just so there's a little more breadth or space in between them. 45 feet between those buildings is pretty tight and on a really large lot. Just as a matter of design, you know, if people were living there, it'd be nice to have a little more space around the buildings. Just a suggestion.
The story with the location and separation, on this plan not showing the tree. We have a couple beautiful tree. And like the building number 1, duplex number 1, right side is nice, beautiful maple. I staying probably 50, 40 feet from the tree. That's why I tied with that way. And this is just my planning.
Yep.
You know, I try to stay from the easement, I try to stay over 100 feet from the pond, I try to stay this, and this is location preferable. And 2 feet this way or 2 feet this way will be probably final correction on the job site.
is this something where the zoning board could actually be helpful? Because it really comes down to, well, we can't fit enough sand filters in this place to really make that other plan make sense. But could the zoning board go through the variance to allow some of this to happen, or does it quite align with the code of the town?
Where is it not aligning with the code right now?
Well, because you would have to prove that it can be subdividable into 3 lots because there's 3 different units.
The zoning board would not.
They won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Plus, the zoning board couldn't give a variance for something that's not town code.
Yeah.
If it's New York State code, or if it's fire code, or if it's other kind of health department code, our zoning board can't give a variance for those things.
Does the ordinance say that it's up to the opinion of the director of planning whether it's further subdividable?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
not up to us, guys, it's up to.
no, that is written in there that I have to certify that it is, but because this is a major subdivision now. I felt like that was overstepping my authority to be jumping into major subdivision and that. Feasibility of that. All the other times we've applied 6.7, I think there's probably been 5 times maybe.
Yeah.
Those have all been minor subdivisions, they've all been done by my certification.
Right.
So I would agree with Brad. That the sand filters, to me, are sort of an issue or question anyway. So
But maybe we'll try to see if there's a way on the, so a request would be on the. Site when he comes back for the full site plan review,
yeah,
to. See if you can draw out a spot where you would put another, he doesn't necessarily have to do it now, but.
Let again the flag lot to accept the sand filter for that,
Yeah.
and it doesn't, it could be a proposed filter.
Yeah,
So
that doesn't have to be put in.
We've got it, we were in the spot a few months ago where. It was approved for a project and we had to bend the rules, not really bend the rules, but we had to wiggle through the process to get it approved, so, and it took a long time for the applicant, so.
Mhm.
This is the same kind of potential down the road for another planning board. So I think if you could draw it in where it might.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a spot where it might be.
Yeah, for the field and
Yeah.
the extra space for the auxiliary field, so.
Yeah.
I think that
Anyway,
might, would that solve, would that help everybody? Okay.
That would,
yeah,
yeah, it doesn't have to use it, but just have a,
Prove it out.
just show it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Anyway, health department required for me. The future spare place for replacement the sand filter. So I have a room for this already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the big circle is basically will be a little bit different, will be like eye drop configuration.
Little different shape.
Yeah, different
Got it.
shape, so we will have a room for the extra.
So what do you need from us?
You're just giving feedback tonight, you'll come back
Yes,
next
yeah.
month for a
Okay,
formal sketch.
so. Feedback would be what, redo the. Sand filter on a lot, on that one lot,
What we just talked about,
septic and then.
lighting plan, if there's.
Well, that would be part of the 1
Yeah.
through 30.
Answer the questions on number one, site plan review.
Make sure the flag lots are
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
the criteria.
I think that's it.
And what, so where's this exit on the road? Is it good visibility both ways?
Yeah, the Y spread give both of them good side. It means the road is fairly curvy, on this side. That's why the driveway have a double access. So wherever you go, west or south or east, you choose so the driveway, I will only improve, means make wider, new resurface, everything, but the Y shape will stay.
So you've got 2 entrances and
Yes,
exits on the
yes.
road?
Yes.
Are we okay with that? Gentlemen?
Do those exist today?
That exists today and
Yeah, they do. They do.
Does it exist today?
Yeah.
Yep.
because the safety, if you will use only one of them, I will be more happy because less money for me making one. Yeah, but the less doesn't matter right or left will not work good because you not see other side.
Okay.
Yep.
I
Go ahead.
just want to make a suggestion. I mean, I'm looking at Google Earth. And it's a lot of field. I haven't been to the property, so I don't know exactly what trees are located exactly where. There's not many trees here. It's pretty open land, it looks like. But I'm wondering, I'm just suggesting that maybe duplex 3 could rotate counterclockwise a little bit and give a little more space in between. It's just a design suggestion, just to give a little more breathing room between the buildings. you know, if the trees are right there and you can't do it, then I understand, but if there's any way you could modify that so that there's more space, I think it would help the overall plan. That's all.
Good. All right. Any other suggestions? Okay.
Great.
So we'll see you next month.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Zoning rewrite. Results from the last recent ZAG meeting. So I sent out with the agenda, the revised draft. Proposed zoning language. For data centers. That Nan had done after the meeting. The one thing I neglected to include. In all of the stuff, and I have not sent to the ZAG committee yet either, is the minutes from that last meeting. But there was a lot, I know there was only 3 of us from the planning board that were there. And so I'll just briefly say, you know, the meeting primarily focused on the draft language. There were 3. In addition to ZAG members, there were 3 residents there. Who gave some input. We also had some email input. From Jack Wright and Alice Green. And a lot of the discussions centered around the power usage and water usage and the appropriateness of data centers and can we regulate them properly. There were a number of people who believe that provided input that believe that we might be better off banning them was one of the things that came up. So, but, you know, we had kind of gone down this path of looking at how we might allow small data centers within the town. And so that's what this draft really says. I think one of the things that I wanted to do in the ZAG meeting was try to call a public hearing, a planning board public hearing. But we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't do that. As this moves forward, I mean, just to reiterate the steps here, the planning board needs to decide if this draft or some modification of this draft is what we want to present to the town board. The town board would then have to take it up. They would have to have a public hearing. So there's definitely going to be a public hearing on this, no matter what. And then the town board would do what they want to do with the law. We are charged with just making a recommendation to the town board. Having said that, I know there are people here who may want to say something about this, so I think we should do that first. Does that make sense? Okay, so if there's anybody that wants to say anything.
Do you happen to have the charge handy so everyone's on the same page of what the town board asked you to do? Might be helpful.
Hold on.
I know.
I didn't have it up.
Have it too.
I didn't have it up ahead of time.
But since you referred to it.
I should have brought it up. I'm sure I have it somewhere. Oh crap. Okay. Losing power. Do we have the charge? That's what I was looking for. Hold on.
So just to reiterate, if you don't mind, I mean, about a year ago, the town put a moratorium in place. It's some crypto money because we were approached by an entity and zoning was under rewrite, and this is one of the things we wanted to tackle. And so that moratorium runs through for this year. Trying to get something together to address the issue. And I think our charge to planning board was to use their research skills with some analytical capabilities to look into this and make a recommendation of what we should do with our zoning law. And we've been working with our consultant. You know, anything that they've come up with is really, reflecting what the town board asked them to do.
Yeah, I was trying to find it, but.
I think I found it.
Okay,
This is from March 16th, 2023.
What? It would have been a little,
no, it would have been
it
later
would
than
have been
that,
last September, I think.
right?
That's the trans bill open planning.
Hmm.
board. Town. Okay. Town board channel.
Tony, are you going to be proposing that we consider having a public, a planning board public hearing?
No, that's not my intent. Because I don't want to delay. If we do that, it's going to delay things another month, and I don't know that we really need to do that. Because my point was, I would have liked to have had a planning board public hearing, but
You co-host and you can share.
I don't want to delay things. And the planning or the town board has to have a public hearing anyway. So I don't know that a planning board public hearing is necessary.
So are we moving to take a vote tonight to keep things moving along, or what's our plan tonight?
Our plan tonight is to review all the information we have and make comments on the draft language and make a decision. Ideally, we'd make a decision on whether this draft language is what we want to pass to the town board or something else.
So the 3 points I believe are up there. Basically, we ask, are crypto mining and data processing facilities consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, right? Should commercial crypto mining and data processing facilities be included in the town zoning law? If yes, then what regulations does the planning board recommend? And can the planning board identify potential positive and or negative impacts to the town beyond the context of the comprehensive plan? If yes, identify those potential impacts for the town board's consideration. So this is language that I worked on. I think John might have had some input on this as well. So that's like ask them plan or do.
Right. Okay. So having said that, who's going to speak? Murray?
I think we have a lot to talk about here.
Marie Craig, 13 Wood Court West. I was at the ZAG meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I came away from that with the feeling that those of us who spoke and gave the opinion that we don't think that data centers are a good addition to Dryden. I didn't feel we were heard. This was left exactly the same 5,000 square foot recommendation that we came into that ZAG meeting with. I specifically asked the consultant if Dryden could ban data centers. People had expressed the opinion that because data centers couldn't be closely defined, that trying to ban them would leave us open to lawsuits and all of that. But Nan's answer to my question was immediate, and she said, of course you can ban them. So if I ruled the world, I would simply have us ban data centers from Dryden. But I don't. And given that, as I understand it, limiting the size of the building that the data center can inhabit is a way of persuading people to go somewhere else with their data center that they want to put into a big new building. I'd really strongly urge to reduce the size of the building stated in here, stated at 5,000 feet. I see that the accessory data centers are limited to 500 square feet. I'd like to see all data centers limited to 500 square feet. Joe Wilson asked a really, seemed to me like a really good question at the ZAG meeting when he asked, what benefit would Dryden see from allowing data centers? I can't find a good answer to that. I can't find any benefit that we would see. I would love to see more small businesses in Dryden, yes. I would love to see people well employed at work that is interesting and keeps their mind going. I don't see that happening with data centers. I see fewer people, fewer minds. And so that's where I stand. I would like to see them banned. If not banned, then I would like to see the size of the buildings that they're in reduced to the point where it would persuade somebody to go somewhere else. And we all know that they are multiplying across the country in football field-sized buildings. So we don't need that in Dryden. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mary. Joe?
As an aside, first of all, hello to colleagues. It's nice to be back. It's good to see each of you. As an aside, you can hear a hell of a lot better there than I could ever hear up there. So I've been able to follow what's been going on very well. I appreciate it. I sympathize with Marie's remarks, and I ask one rhetorical question, and that is if you can carefully define a data center sufficiently to think that the regulations you propose will hold up, why could you not use the same language in definition of a data center and then ban it? But that's a rhetorical question. I want to compliment everybody who's been involved with this effort because it's clearly thoughtful. It's clearly a diligent effort to meet the charge that the town board gave you. And I can't fault in any way that effort or that intent because I think it reflects well on everybody and especially on your diligence and your interest in the welfare of the community as a whole. What I intend to do is send to the town board a series of questions about, mostly about the substance of what is proposed. So I'm not going to comment any more than I just have with regard to the virtue of data centers. I do subscribe to Marie's thoughts, particularly that in a sense, data centers are dumbing us all down. But that's also my personal opinion. And it probably not that relevant for this. In any case, thank you for your effort. I will send along questions about the substance, and I wish us all well. This is a difficult and challenging problem. Thanks.
Yep. No.
You don't even say that to you. Okay.
So I'm Nancy Munkenbeck, and I'm on the Conservation Board. Hillary just asked me though to ask, wondering if you need to finalize tonight. So I guess you were hoping they don't finalize, right? Okay, so that's Hillary's. From the Conservation Board, another board member contacted me, and she wasn't Ann Clark. You didn't list her name, so you didn't get her.
I did get something from her. Did I not say that?
She did, she emailed.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she emailed the planning board, right? That went to everybody, yeah.
Oh, so you did get directly from her, but for those who might not have seen that, so she had spoken with me about concern about data centers near the rail trail. And I explained to her that that they were being limited to the light industrial, and that light industrial was at the corner of Hanshaw and Extension and 13, which is nowhere near the rail trail. And the other one is right by Route 13. So her concerns about noise or something being adverse to the rail trail. I said, you know what, right after you've crossed Route 13, that's not really an issue. And she agreed with that. But then I got thinking about a second thing that we didn't discuss in the ZAG meetings, and that is that light industrial can in the future be designated for a different place. So what would be involved in addressing these kinds of concerns if we end up having light industrial on another place that is near the rail trail and not near Route 13?
Well, that would be part of, I mean, in order to change the zoning, the town board would have to take it up. It would have to be a law. There'd have to be public hearings on that. Right, and all that. So in other words, if they wanted to designate another area light industrial, right?
Yeah.
That would have,
Take it under
there would
the
have to be a,
When you do that, do you routinely look to see if what kinds of things were in the area for light industrial in the first place? Or I was just wondering if there's a way to just get something that if you do redo the zoning so that there's another light industrial, that it sort of raises a little red flag about the rail trail. Because I don't see anything in the now that makes a difference for the rail trail. And Anne agreed about that. So, but it's just a thought. Okay, so that was my thoughts.
okay.
Have a good evening.
Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom or? Want to say something? Okay,
Yeah, well, are you asking everybody on Zoom, including me?
I'm asking the public.
Okay,
You're not the public.
I'll wait.
Okay, so I think that's all we have for comments today. There was an email that went to the planning board. I think there was some other things forwarded earlier today, so we haven't had a chance to look at some of those. And I'll say one of the reasons that we didn't change this much after the ZAG meeting is we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't vote on changes. So that, and the whole idea was when we did get to the point where we would, that's the purpose tonight, is to discuss the things that came up in the ZAG meeting. And discuss, is this the draft we want? And, or are there changes or other things that need to happen, Chris?
To continue on that, there were four main points that came up from the ZAG meeting that we're gonna be up for discussion. One was the size of the accessory structures, if the planning board felt comfortable with that number or wanted it higher. Also the size of the building, the 5,000 square foot that a speaker alluded to. That was a main point of discussion during the ZAG meeting. Is that size appropriate? Should it be smaller? What should that number be, and kind of what the planning board feels about that?
5,000 square feet is not a very big building.
It's up to see what the whole board thought about. And then the question that came up, if it's allowed, do we restrict the density of allowable use or the total square foot usage?
Right.
And then whether
There was also a suggestion to limit the number of these that could be within the light industrial zone. So one of the things we could do is say, okay, here's what they can be. But there can't be more than two, like we did the sign
The build,
right? There can't
the
be more
build.
than two within a distance of each other or something along those
The
lines.
recommendation that we gave at the end said one in each.
One each.
One in each of the two light industrial
Light
zones,
industrial.
right?
I guess we just put that in.
It's not in the draft, but that's something that certainly could be incorporated. Something to, because one of the things that came up is, okay, yeah, what if somebody tries to build 12 5,000 square foot buildings? Right? That's, that would kind of defeat the purpose, right? So the idea is something to limit the density of these things. And it's the same discussions we've had about density restrictions all over the place, right? So, and like we did with the sign overlay, right, is the overlay district, is we said, you can't have a sign more than closer than this thing. But I think I like your idea, John, or what you said there is, one in each of the two light industrial zones, right? Or districts. The other thing about sizing is there are multiple ways we can put restrictions on size. Square footage is one, but the more common one in rating data centers has to do with megawatts, and it's not the power draw, it's the megawatt rating of the data center itself. And so there's different ways in which you can limit the size of these. And actually a megawatt type restriction is probably the most accurate way, because as equipment, as we've seen with computers throughout, since they started, is they've been continually getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so, you could pack more and more and more in the same size space, but if we were to put limits on the megawatt size of the building or of the data center, that would, prevent things from being packed in too tightly, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
concern that came up with that point was enforcement. Say we put a megawatt, how is that gonna be even enforced?
Yeah. Well, and that's the question that came up on several of these things, right? Was, is any of this enforceable? And, if we say that, okay, a data center can only draw this much power or use this much water, or, any of the various other things that we do, how do we enforce that? How do we know that, the people that put these things in are actually doing what they said they were going to do? And we've had sort of general enforcement discussions across a lot of these things, right? We do site plan reviews, and sometimes people don't do what they said they were going to do. Actually, quite often, people don't do what they said they were going to do on their site plan, right? And how do we enforce those things?
So I do have a question on size of the building. Now, is that the footprint? Or is that are you gonna limit it to 5,000 or?
That's a square feet footprint.
Square footage of a building,
Okay, and then what about height?
35 feet, it's.
I think within that, yeah, so
So that 35 feet is the maximum for the code, so wouldn't we be smart to put like a cubic footage number in there?
Yeah.
Can't exceed it.
Ground square feet, I think it was GSF.
Yeah, what,
Ground
okay.
square feet, so if they cantilever it.
Well, it's a,
nah, yeah,
I mean, so you could put a cubic footage number in there and say.
you could put a cubic footage number in, you could also, again, if we did something with a
And a-
megawatt rating, that would also keep you from.
Put it down. As things become more efficient and more efficient. You're gonna get more and more of these, so they make more space, so
Possibly.
they could go up to 35 feet, I mean, what? I'm just playing the devil's advocate
Yeah,
here, so
yeah.
wouldn't we be smart to say, do we want it to be a single story building, we want a 2-story building at 2,500 square feet?
Well, and define a single story building. It is only one floor, but it's 35 feet tall.
Well, or it'd be 2 stories at 2,500.
Does this also beg the question about what's the consequence of a violation of these?
Yeah.
Just
Beyond
keep
the
using it,
possibility.
driving.
Yeah.
No one, of course.
So,
Well, I'm serious, what?
I'm serious too,
Why would
there's
the
no enforcement.
consequence be part of your regulation?
Oh, I know, but who's gonna give him a stop work order?
Excuse me, this is discussion on the planning board. We will listen to your comments and in Zag. So
So I think you gotta put,
please admit that,
I
so
do think you gotta put some sort of limit. You can't just say 5,000 square feet, you're gonna have to put
I agree.
heights and. Cubic feet or something in there.
But in a lot of ways, the size of the building doesn't matter that much, right? Really, it's what resources it's using. That's what the concern is,
Well,
right?
Yeah, if you're gonna cap it out of
Because-
megawatts. And
And that's where like.
But then the
the
other thing,
measuring-
how many servers can you cram into one
Exactly, I
space?
mean,
And
and
they're gonna
it
get
gets more over time.
I mean, they're gonna get smaller and smaller. I mean, look at your little desktops now, they're the size of a hockey puck.
So the main concerns about water use and
What?
around electric use.
Yeah.
So that's really, I mean, that comes back to enforcement, which
Well,
we're
water
just- we're not good at.
Yeah, but water, didn't, we were talking before about, it would all be, if it would all be water cooled, of course.
Yes.
No fans, and it would be recycled.
Is it recycled water, then is it actually water?
Well,
using
you don't
water?
wanna, what are you gonna pull it out, create and dump it?
Cornell does.
Okay, so
So, no, but my question really is, though, like, it doesn't, the size of building seems fairly arbitrary here, right? It's really about how many resources.
But it's not arbitrary, because it's gonna make people say, oh, we can't go there.
right,
Because it's not meeting their needs, but it might meet some of Dryden's needs, if somebody like. Let's say the insurance company wanted to expand their servers and they needed room.
Yes,
so.
yeah,
So if you ban it, they're not gonna be able to do it, there'd be grandfathered.
I get
but,
that.
You know, so.
I'm actually not,
Yeah.
I'm kind of in support of it, actually, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
So if you limit the size, so maybe the size should be half of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is all through special use purpose. So
It is all through special use permit. That's
So
the
the
other thing.
the
Yep.
town board could just say, show me the need for Dryden.
Yep.
You know, is this to expand the existing server capacity that you have at this particular building?
And it's also, I mean, for the town itself, one of the main pieces of the economy that's working well right now is in this area too.
Right.
So if we can bring in tax dollars through.
Oh.
Reason to think.
So let me just, let me give you a little bit of information here on sizing.
I just wanna make sure I understand your point, Craig, so. Expand the server needs in an existing building, or are we talking about this?
Well,
Hypothetical insurance company
So
going to our.
hypothetical insurance
Industrial.
company, hypothetical insurance company already has servers in place, their grandfather. They need more room, so they're gonna look to the industrial area to go put more in.
Okay, so they would place their structure there.
Servers over there.
Just wanna make sure we're clear.
So, you know, how do we allow that to be used, you know?
Right. Because I would think we would want to allow that.
Part of the bit, because otherwise they
Yep.
might just move, they said,
Yep.
we're gonna up and
Yep.
get out of here.
Yep.
Move
Right,
accordingly.
so just to give more detail on the sizing, so. The ways to size a data center. Physical footprint, which is what we're talking about, 5,000 square
Yeah.
feet. Small enterprise data centers. Few thousand square feet, hyperscale facilities like Amazon, Google, Microsoft exceed 1 million square feet. Just to give you an idea of size. Power capacity is what I mentioned, megawatts. A small enterprise data center is under a megawatt. A co-location mid-size is 1 to 10 megawatts, and hyperscale cloud is 10 to over 100. Some of these hyperscale Amazon facilities will exceed 300 megawatts per site. I mean, these are big power drawing data centers. Another way is by rack capacity. I'm not keen on that one primarily because how do you enforce it, right? Is somebody going to go in and inspect how many racks they have, right? I suppose it's something that could be built into the building permit, but I don't know. Rack capacity,
Again,
right?
you're going back to as things get smaller.
And then there's the by tier, or excuse me, by cooling capacity. This is another one that might be reasonable, right? Is by because that gets to the noise and water and all the other things is, you know, what's the cooling capacity? So, you know, that's usually expressed in a BTU per hour kind of regulation, right? And then there's tier. I don't think we want to get into tiered because it's really talking about the type of system, which is, you know, small enterprise versus, you know, tier 4, which is large scale facilities, right? I don't know if we want to get into that kind of thing. And then you can, or by function, enterprise data centers, which is essentially built for one organization. Co-location data centers, these are shared facilities that multiply a cloud server type facility. And then hyperscale data centers are like big cloud, massive footprint. And then their smallest ones are edge data centers, which are under a megawatt. They're distributed, they're designed for low latency applications where you want to have data centers distributed around to make them faster for whoever's using them. So this is part of the challenge here is that there's lots of different data centers incorporate a lot of different definitions, a lot of different usage. You know, and so how can we, part of this is how can we allow those that support local businesses and support our comprehensive plan versus those that don't? I mean, certainly these hyperscale data centers are not what we want.
Not what you want.
Right? So there's no question. So I don't know where you would put one. I mean, even our light industrial zone isn't big enough that you could even put one of these things, right?
I mean, so when it goes to enforcement, I think you can enforce it by the special use permit. You could require one every year for a re-permit, but could you not?
Or a good write-in fines for non-compliance.
Right, but they bring their electric bills to you and see that they're under the threshold, right? And then
We did that with Berkshire Hathaway. They bring their emissions to us every year.
That's right. And then couldn't you, that's right, and then, so you do by square footage, and also every year you say, who are you providing the service for? You know, because we want to be locally based. I'm not saying exclusively Dryden, but you know, are you serving the needs of, you know, when Tony retires, he's gonna open up a business and meet all this.
That's what this is about.
Yeah, I'm gonna retire and open a crypto mining facility. So, no, I wouldn't do that.
Just express a concern on the town board. I mean, this is such an evolving, fastly evolving technology. I just worry we're regulating something we really don't have our arms around.
Right, I think you're
There
right.
may be a beneficial use to this down the road that we're not seeing. And you know, a way to do this environmentally sensitively, you know.
So
Low energy use, green energy.
Yeah, I will mention one other thing. I have had some conversations with someone who works for a company that builds these data centers. And one of the things that's happening because of the concern, primarily because of the concerns about power and the fact that there's concerns that data centers have been driving up the cost of power and all of those things. A lot of the projects that they're looking at now are projects which include their own energy generation, their own power generation. And so the idea is that they can build these data centers which have no impact on the local grid. Now, the question becomes, how are they generating that power? most of the time now, they're doing it with gas, natural gas. Power generation, but there's a new type of natural gas power generation that doesn't actually burn the natural gas. And doesn't have the emissions that burning natural gas has. The other thing is you could co-locate these things with some green energy power production, right? Or some of the projects they're doing, they put a data center in, but the same, as part of the same project, they also put in affordable housing complexes and various other things. So you could tie the data center and the town can make a lot of money off of these things. You know, there's questions about, is that a good thing or not? But, you know, if the town could make significant money off of these things, you could lower taxes to everybody else and those kind of things. So there are some things that can be done, and I'm not suggesting that we want Amazon data centers here, right? I don't think we do, but I think there are some things which could, there are some good things which could come out of one if the project is done and regulated and managed and enforced correctly. So, I'm just, I agree, you're stating an opinion.
I think that's how we got.
Tony,
Yeah.
Tony?
Yep.
Can I say something?
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry I missed the ZAG meeting. I see that this is a very important issue and question, and so I apologize for not being there. I'm going to be at the next one in early October. But on this crypto and data mining, I just want to thank Hillary for speaking up and also for sharing the information about Lansing and what they've been experiencing and going through, looking at the power plant proposal. I have a very different take on this. I feel from my colleagues on the board. I don't see 5,000 square feet as an accessory building size. I see that as a large structure. And when we're talking, let me just finish, please. And when we're talking about 1 megawatt, it's interesting because a single megawatt of power can take care of 500 to 900 homes. I don't know. I mean, I'm not comfortable thinking that this is a way Dryden is going to want to make, create revenue, tax revenue or otherwise. I came to the exact same conclusion that Hillary did before our meeting, reading through Nan's comments, and I took a 0 off of that, and I said, well, 500 sounds like a more reasonable number. And I don't know if it's too late to be looking at that language and where it's allowed as an accessory data center, or not, or it's restricted. But I'd like to keep that, and I understand, Tony, that you're wanting to move this along. I'd like to keep this conversation open a little bit. Right now, I'm not comfortable supporting this at all. So I don't know if I'm the lone voice on that, but I have real reservations about, becoming another town that has crypto and data mining. I'm not comfortable with it, just personally speaking and environmentally speaking. And there's no way you could leverage or power even a single megawatt facility with green energy. You'd have to be supplying solar power that would be the equivalent of 500 to 900 homes, like the Lansing paper discusses. So that's just unrealistic. And for gas, that's just propagating more fossil fuel use. I don't see anything good in this whole thing. So, I appreciate the conversation, but I'm pretty sure about how I feel about this. Thanks.
Okay. Other comments?
Just ask, if you wanted to limit electrical use, couldn't you do that by limiting the wiring?
Probably.
And that could be enforceable.
It would limit what the maximum draw was, yes. It's not gonna, it would somewhat limit the overall usage. But generally what, like, I mean, for example, I have 200 amp service in my house. I can't draw more than 200 amps. But I don't draw anywhere near that on a regular basis, so.
Can't regulate building code.
You can't regulate the building code, right?
I don't think so. Can you, right? I don't think you can.
You know, all that I could envision is if you have a nameplate rating of the facility, like we have for our solar.
Yeah,
panels.
yeah.
Something like that would be, you know.
That's where the,
Something verifiable.
And if it went to the town board on a yearly basis in January, and they could say yay or nay, and you see where who's using it, where it's going.
and I believe because we can regulate use, right, I think we could. I mean, the biggest issue with these data centers is, in my opinion, are the ones that are used for crypto mining, which is what they're planning on doing in Lansing, right?
Yeah.
You know, crypto mining facilities don't really benefit a lot of people, right? The more common, the other data centers though that are being built, there's a huge explosion of them are all these AI data centers, right?
It's always a much larger scale, okay?
Yeah.
You're not gonna do an AI out of a 5,000 square foot building.
Correct.
Yeah, not without a nuclear plant.
That's right. And so they're gonna be more enterprise type or co-location type data centers.
To serve the businesses.
To serve the businesses,
And
which
that's
is really
what-
what, yeah.
And that's what we're looking.
That's what we're looking, in my opinion, that's what we are looking for, and I think. My opinion is that it's somewhat short-sighted to ban data centers completely. Because, you know, there could be businesses coming into town that. It could prevent certain businesses from coming into town, I guess is what.
I think it's a big piece of the growing economy right now, right? If you look at where the economy sits, a big piece of it is this. I don't really see where a 5,000 square foot building lends itself to either side of this, is it's a big for a business, right? They just need some storage space and some data processing.
Right.
Very small for what a data center really is.
And it's,
So
and I
unless
mean,
you're
it does
gonna
give
have
you
enough
numbers.
people, many people even wanting to use a 5,000 square foot building.
And right now, 5,000's out there, and again, we can adjust that number.
Yeah.
Right, if we think it should go up or down. I'm not hearing anybody saying it should go up. You know, but we can adjust that number, and the accessory use data centers are 500 square feet, right, in this.
Well, what is that? What square footage actually becomes a point where it's economically beneficial to somebody who would go bigger than 500? I don't think it's 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Right, I
So
think,
maybe it's 2,500, yeah.
I'm not sure, maybe that's a number we should look at, maybe it's
Yeah.
10,000.
Yeah.
You know, but maybe that's what we should be looking for, where's it?
Personally, I think 500 for a data center, I think 500 is too small, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But
So, a couple thoughts here, things that we talked about before, and things that I thought about when I wrote the draft for this. For starters, I'm horrified by the development of data around the world and the effect it's having, not only on electric load, but also on human beings. It's a scary thing. And, you know, if I was in control, I'd turn them all off. But, that's not happening. The horse has left the barn. Everyone in this room uses data centers. Every business transaction we conduct involves data centers. Every business in Dryden uses data centers, even if it's a garage, you go to materials. So for us to say that, we're not gonna have a data center in Dryden, that's NIMBY, guys. It's a fact of life. Then the challenge is, how do we accept a tool that we use every day in a way that doesn't hurt the town?
Right.
So, we talked about building size, the 5,000 square foot, I did some reading on it, it's way at the small end of data centers. Seemed like a reasonable thing for us, it's completely arbitrary, guys. We could talk different square footages, we're gonna have a very difficult time coming up with rationale that it should be this instead of that. You know, pick a number, I would have a hard time. The 5,000 square foot, roughly 200 watts a square foot for the high density electric load, so that's roughly a megawatt. The commercial industrial zones here in Dryden are next to a double NYSEG transmission line. The megawatts not a big imposition on the electrical infrastructure currently. So it didn't seem to me that 5,000 square foot / 1 megawatt would be a terrible imposition on the power system. Another significant limitation that made it into the language that Anne wrote is on water use. That you can't use it for direct pass, single pass cooling, and you can't use it for evaporative cooling, which essentially means it's got to be air cooled. That places a substantial limitation on power density, and it's an easy way to do it, and it's an easy way for Dryden to protect our precious water resources, but at the same time, leaving the door open. People are building air-cooled data centers. It's not the end of the world. So, you know, you can get into endless discussions about how big it should be, how we should measure the square footage, whether it should be limited by power or, but you're not going to be able to provide rationale to back it up. Unfortunately, it's an arbitrary thing. You got to pick something. And that's what I did when I wrote the draft. One thing that's missing in the language, where I couldn't find it, the Anne wrote, is that in the deliberations on the special use permit, that the applicant needs to prove to the town board that this is something that's beneficial for local businesses, beneficial for the citizens of Dryden. That's true with all special use permits. I mean, that's basically what you do when you consider a special use permit, but I would say that, right, the ordinance, but needed to be part of the deal. I would shy away from putting things in the ordinance that require subsequent action on the part of the town. The people who wrote the email and some of the comments that I heard you folks make, the town is good at enforcing the regulations that they have. It's hard to enforce it. It's expensive to enforce it. So we should try our best that the things that are important to us are part of the design of the facility. And that's as far as we think we would need to go to enforce what we want to have enforced. And so we're back again, 5,000 gross square feet to find a pretty standard way to define building something. You can't use water for direct pass or evaporative cooling. And that's fundamental to the design, and it's a limitation. So when I wrote this, my intent was that Dryden would crack the door open, one data center in each district, fairly modest, the small side of what they are. And then in fact, these are a fact of life, guys. Everybody's using them. We don't know how it's going to develop, but it is conceivable to me that local businesses would come forward and say, yes, I would like to have one of these in Dryden to support my business. And they can buy it here or they can buy it somewhere else, but it's going to happen. So, so that's what I was thinking when I wrote the draft.
So I agree a lot with what John just said, except for, I thought we talked about no air cooled because of the noise. Early on, we talked about, because that's the one everybody complains about.
Well, if you can't water cool it, you can't air cool it, you can't.
Well, I thought we talked about water cooling would be the closed circuit water.
Closed circuit water, yeah,
Yeah.
closed loop.
The closed loop, yeah, because they are noisy, that's what everybody complains, because they got blowers running 24/7.
Yeah. Which can be mitigated.
Yeah, you could.
I mean, we've got, listen, here's another thought. Other businesses in light industrial zone can easily have a 1 megawatt load and they need to get rid of heat, and we don't regulate them in that way. We don't tell them how they can cool it.
But they don't produce the noise.
And this draft does have a whole section on noise and heat.
None of the fans.
But there's no restrictions on it. They could.
They could, yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm on the opposite. I think 5,000 is too small. I think that's a weird number because
Too small.
it doesn't get you to the point where you could actually have a small, if you were creating a business that wasn't the AI side or trying to create a data center, it doesn't get you there. But it doesn't, I can't imagine many businesses needing something that big, right? So it's a weird middle zone.
But they,
10,000 square foot makes more sense than a 5,000.
they don't have to use 5, they can do 1,000.
They could, but I'm just saying that the cusp of when it's actually useful as a data center is at 5,000 square feet. So if you had somebody coming into town trying to develop a business, that would probably restrict them from wanting to do it here. Maybe that's okay for the board, maybe that's okay for the town. I just don't think the 5,000 square foot number is right. If we wanted to support it, if we don't want to, it's a different answer.
I remember what Nan said was that this definition of small data center was anywhere from 500 square feet to 20,000 square feet. So in that definition, 5,000 isn't.
And that it's in.
Not like, yeah.
It comes back to what they're trying to do in it, right? I think if you create data storage, that's one is.
Well, and I think the crypto mining piece. Back to the special use permit thing, where one of the parts of that process is what's the benefit to the town? I think it's gonna be very hard. For anybody who wants to run a crypto mining facility.
Right, well,
To talk about, other than possible money. What is the benefit to the town, right? And.
so the one that was proposed was how many square feet? Right, do you remember?
Well, I'm picturing that concept was maybe 40 by 100,
Yeah, since, yeah,
just
Yeah.
under.
It'd be like, that was like 4,000 square.
4,000, yeah.
But I think the question is not just about crypto mining. There's other businesses that use data centers, right? And so I'm not just, I'm not personally in support of crypto mining. But like if you're gonna be talking about
I agree with you.
data storage and data like centers in general, it's a different question, I guess. It's hard to come to.
And the hard part is that, again, it comes back to enforcement. I would support. As part of the special use permit, just saying we don't see the benefit to crypto mining facilities, we're not gonna allow crypto mining facilities. Then if somebody builds one of these things and then starts using it for crypto mining, how are we gonna know that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
No,
It's.
If they don't get a permit, yeah.
Especially, if they're building it for AI, because the hardware for AI and the hardware for crypto mining is
So,
same stuff,
yeah.
right?
But I mean, maybe that comes back to, how many resources they use and limiting what to the maximum resource
Yeah.
and not size of building.
So. Where we are on this, so we've been charged to come up with a recommendation to the town board, so. What we need to do, I think, tonight is. Come to some decisions about. Things like, is 5,000 square feet the right number, or do we want to adjust it? Or are there other things that should be in here? I think the one thing that's not in here is we talked about the density piece, right? That's not in here, limiting it to one. I didn't see that when I read through. Yeah, I don't think that made it into here, so I think we want to make, for example, that's one of the things I think we want to get into here is we want to limit the number of these facilities that can be in each district. And we could do that a couple of ways. You could say they can't be within so many feet of each other or so many miles of each other, or we can just say within each district. I think the one in each district, I think is a good way to start, I think that.
And then what about future districts?
Well, if there's a future district defined, then one could go into the future district. But that would require going through the whole process, which would involve public hearings and all that other stuff about defining that.
I only bring that up because Mercantile got changed to mixed use commercial. When in Codema came. Remember that? Oh,
So in code, where in Codema is now,
I believe it's mixed use commercial.
right. But we don't allow these in mixed use commercial.
Well, but that got changed like overnight. So what's to stop somebody from changing a district.
Well, don't you have, if you want to change the district, don't you have a public hearing on that?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
What's stop us from changing, allowing fracking? I mean, we could do anything, you know. I think we're trying to set a standard and establish it in law. If some future board thinks it's representing town interest better, they can change any law.
Right, even if we ban it, the future board could make a decision not to.
Yeah.
Huh?
I missed what you said.
Okay.
So, you want a straw vote now? What to do with this?
So
I have two things on my list. One is we need to add the terminology for the special use permit in there.
Well, I guess.
Or kind of how I suggested.
Yeah, I think the first question to ask, and this would be a vote from the board. When we're thinking about making a recommendation to the town board. Is there support on the board for outright banning data centers? So I'm gonna ask for a vote on that. Who's in favor of doing outright bans of data centers? I see Bill. And I would assume Brad.
I will assume Brad's got his hand.
And I say Brad. Who's not in favor of outright bans of data centers?
No, yeah, I'll say no.
Okay. So the board at the moment is not in favor of outright bans. So having said that, I think then we need to look at the definitions you need to look at this draft. And think about what changes we want to make. One change I think we've already heard is as you were starting to say, Chris, is limiting to one per. What's missing in here is limiting one per district.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other comments on that or want to do something different than that?
No, I agree with that.
So I'm hearing, so I'm going to ask for a vote on adding that language to this draft. All in favor? Okay.
Brad, you got your hand still up.
Okay, so that was, on that one, I had, Frank, you're not, you think there should be more, right?
No, I'm a little bit mixed in the whole thing. I'm trying to think it through. So right now I'm.
Okay.
No, I'm not yet.
And Brad, you wouldn't support one in each.
I would support a maximum of one since the moratorium did not muster anything. So yeah, the least, the best.
But my question is, what if somebody put in 800 square foot one? They were open at 500, they need 800 square foot, so they went to light industrial. Now that can't be used ever again for something a little larger. That seems like good.
And the town can change.
It could have, yeah.
If they felt it was unnecessary, it could, but again, I'd have to go through the public hearings,
Right.
you'd have to go through that whole process.
It's a pretty arduous.
Yeah.
Process.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right, the other one, Chris, was
what John had mentioned about putting language about the special use permit.
The criteria.
Yeah, the criteria, yeah.
Needs to be a benefit to the citizens who drive and then local business.
Local community.
okay. I think we're all in favor of that, right? Having that language in there.
Do we have to define what local means? 100 square miles, I leave that up to the town board.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would too.
Yeah. Okay, I think we all like that one, adding that language. And then let's have a little discussion about the square footage, or I guess the question is, is square footage is what we want to use to determine maximum size? Or is it something else?
I think I think the square footage and power usage is fair, especially if it reverts to a yearly special use permit.
And is 5,000 square foot and a megawatt what we want to go with?
I'm not sure about the megawatt part. That could be reasonable. I honestly think we shouldn't have the square footage listed. I think it's more based on the amount of power and the amount of cooling required. And maybe there's a noise limitation. You can't go over a certain amount.
There is in this ordinance.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. So I think those are the measurable things that would impact the people around them. The actual size of the building, we have big buildings all over the place. It's really what is it doing to the land and
But we,
the wishes around it.
we don't have big buildings everywhere now,
No, but you have pretty big, big barns and I mean, they exist.
but they're not 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
So, somebody mentioned limiting the service size, so that's
Yeah.
equally as understood and measurable as is gross square feet. And you could say that the service size is.
I agree with that.
Or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something that's in the drawing. So take your pick.
I think I agree with him more. I'm just not, I have to do more research to know what is a reasonable size to support what type of data center we're willing to support as a town, I guess, so if it's really just small business use, we're not talking about big power use.
Well, and a megawatt facility, a 1 megawatt facility is rated small enterprise, which is like for a single company. Or it's at the bottom end of the co-location type data center, right? So I kind of agree with you that square footage is maybe not necessarily needed if we're doing it on
Resources.
power capacity.
Because, in my head, I keep picturing, like, what if we had a few PhDs who graduated from Cornell and wanted to create a research center that required a certain amount of compute to do it?
Right.
We wouldn't want to stop that, right? Like, that would be, and that benefit the area and might
Yep.
attract more people. And so that's the side I'm coming from in this, I think.
I agree with you.
So my counter to the power usage is you could have a grow operation with a greenhouse.
Way over that.
And then you could go away, like, there's no enforcement of that. So I don't know how you would do it at this level,
You mean it?
because they could have it on the drawings, like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and then they just stuff all kinds of.
Oh, you mean after the project was done, they just called NICEAG up and say we're increasing our service size?
Well, but as we talked about earlier, you could do that, they could do something similar to what they did with Dominion. And make them have to come and
Would they redo the special use?
redo their special, is that what they have to do, come redo their permit every year? or
Oh,
that-
no, the permit stipulates that they give an emissions report
Right.
every year.
Right.
And take questions.
And, you could stipulate that they have to give a power usage report.
The troubling thing about that is if it's a given that we've determined that this is a beneficial thing to have, then we should not place restrictions on it that are different from any other business.
Right.
So I would say grow house,
That's
because.
true.
So if their power usage skyrockets because they're using grow lamps, like, there's no enforcement on that, so. I don't know how you can enforce one and not anything else, kind of as John said.
So I'm kind of. I know people are not gonna like to hear this, but I'm kind of leaning on the. I tend to agree with Frank on the 5,000 square foot number. I'm kind of leaning towards 10,000 square feet, 1 megawatt.
I mean, it's full building, right? So like if they had half of it was office space, then there was like, that's hard to, it's not gonna just be computers in there. Racks,
Mhm.
typically there's more to it than that.
But I don't know what other people's thoughts are. I'm also fine leaving it at 5,000, 1 megawatt. I agree with Frank. I don't think we should go smaller.
So I have a question on the size, so is that 5,000 in each one of those cases, or is that just 5,000 total?
No, it's 5,000 for each
For
building.
each building, okay.
One of the things we talked about at the ZAG meeting was putting a total square footage on as a limitation. So in other words, the biggest single building could be 5,000 square foot, but maybe you could say you can't have more than 25,000 square feet in the light industrial zones. It was a possible way of limiting the density. So again, somebody couldn't build 20 of these 5,000 square foot buildings next to each other, right?
Daisy chain together.
So in terms of the ZAG, almost everyone there outside of planning board members were totally against going over 5,000. I wanted to go under, so
I agree with
that's something to weigh too.
that is true. I'm fine leaving it at 5,000, 1 megawatt. And the accessory ones are 500.
Yeah, I propose you go to 2,500 square feet.
I think a data center the size of my house or slightly larger would be plenty of room. to Do any kind of computing, especially with computers getting smaller in size, as you discussed earlier. And being able to pack an awful lot into a small space. So 2,500 would be plenty.
2,500 and 20 feet tall.
He makes a good point. Makes a good point.
I do like your idea of cubic.
Yeah, should we put a height restriction on those buildings or?
And actually, with the things within zone, if you did it on cubic size, you know, you could have a small tall building, or you could have a wide squat building, but. You know, the idea is you're not. Cause I mean, a 5,000 square foot building, 35 feet tall. It's gonna look a little funny, first of all, the tower, but you know, you could.
So that's usable area.
2,500, 20 feet tall.
Out of curiosity, you know what the biggest data room in TC3 is? Is it more than 500 square feet?
I have no idea.
Probably is.
I think it is, yeah.
The one in TC3 has,
Yeah.
is probably bigger than 500 square feet.
Yeah.
Well. And part of that is, if you look at like, and I can tell you the same thing, you know, in data, in server rooms and things at Cornell, right, is that. Part of that square footage in some of those rooms, especially accessory usage, is square footage so that you can get around
Yeah,
the cooling problem.
Exactly. And
Right,
there's a
it's
lot of hallways.
You're not packing, you know, if you've got a 500 square foot room. You're not filling that 500 square feet with computers, because you need room for cabling, you need room for cooling, you need room to be able to walk.
Actually,
work.
twice the space required around stuff, and it is,
Correct.
we design these all the time,
Correct.
so.
Which is why rack capacity is used as one way to limit them, right?
The true limiter here is how much power do they pull, to be honest, that's what really would. Tell, you know,
And how much noise they make.
and how much noise they make.
Yep.
What's the tallest building in the industrial district? You know,
That printing building is.
Oh, it's a 35-foot limit, and I think some of them are pushing that.
you think they
I
are?
imagine Knickerbocker is a 30-foot.
That Knickerbocker,
Yeah, they got
building,
some.
gotta be close to it.
Ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a big building, though.
that is a big building.
That's like 2 acres or something, isn't it? It's like, it's a big building.
Yeah, what's the square footage of that building?
I
How many?
think it's approaching 200,000 square foot.
40.
So you see, one of the things we're talking about here, this would prevent somebody from buying, let's say Knickerbocker were to go out. It would prevent somebody from buying that building and turning it into a data center. What'd you say? How big is it?
200,000.
200,000? Yeah. I mean, somebody could do that. I mean, that's what they're talking about doing in Milliken, right?
Yeah,
You know,
they've always talked about that since the day they closed.
you know, so.
Data center.
I mean, the thing, back to what John said, I don't personally, I think it's not great for the world and it's terrible, but look, we were on Zoom here. We're all on our computers.
Mhm.
It's a reality of life, it's part of what we do now. And it's one of those things, where it's like not in our backyard, it's. I don't wanna be that, I guess, and that's
And
kind of what I'm pushing back.
And you know, the recording and transcription that Zoom is doing.
It's all AI.
It is being run through an AI data center.
Yeah, so I mean, like or not, we
Somewhere
are,
else in the world.
yeah.
Somewhere else in the world, you're right.
And powered by it somewhere else in the world.
But all right,
Yeah, no, I can see the rationale for 10,000 too. It's like, you know, it's like,
but I would limit the height.
yeah, so maybe maybe the combination of those two.
We don't do that for other businesses.
It's what 10,000
Well,
gives
we
you,
limit the heights of buildings.
I'm saying we don't pick a particular function out, say it needs to be less or more.
All right, so it's just assume that they're gonna build out a 30-foot max. Two floors.
It's in the industrial zone.
but what 10,000 square feet gives you is the ability for a national company to start and have office space plus some data space. It's not, it's not, and if we max it at 1 megawatt. They can't, they can fill up as much as they want, they can't go over that, but they can use the space And you're not stuck with having too limited amount of people that could be in that space.
I don't, like I said, when I picked five, it was arbitrary.
No, I'm just thinking it out, so.
You make them reasonable item.
I call the case on 5,000, whether we're gonna go with 5,000 or not. Should we call the question on that?
What do you want to do?
I'd like to call the question on 5,000 square
You don't want
feet.
to commit.
There's a vote for it, I'm gonna go for 5,000, or let's go for a different number.
First, who supports 10,000?
I just wanted to say that at the ZAG meeting, we said we wanted to sort of start this off and we didn't have to go to a really big number. We can always up the number later. So I think 5,000 is the max. 2,500 sounded good to me, but I don't have a vote. I'm just the alternate. But Brad missed that meeting and we did say we want to sort of open the door a little and not let all the elephants through on the first time. And they can always come back to the planning board and we could change it later. If some great company comes in and says, no, we really need 6,000 square feet or whatever. So just wanted to point that out for Brad since he missed that.
Thank you, Pat.
So who supports 10,000? I do.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
I'm okay with you.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
10,000 and 1 megawatt.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important part.
Can I make a friendly suggestion?
Yep.
If you're gonna put a megawatt cap, what about a correlation to additional if it's 100% renewable?
There is in here,
I saw that, it encourages.
it encourages, right?
But, you know, if they're going to invest in renewable energy in the town, I think it's something that we wanna.
Dan, an important thing to keep in mind is you're talking about the supply, but not the distribution. So you're putting load on the transmission lines, which is there, whether it's solar or gas turbines. So you gotta keep in mind that it's more than just where the power is coming from, it's how are you getting it to the site?
Well, yeah, how it's getting there, whether
Yeah.
it would travel directly, I guess I was thinking,
So you might,
they'd have to have a
I mean,
customized.
there could be benefits to infrastructure upgrades or that kind of thing. I think that's a nice thought. But I don't know if that is tonight, I guess.
Well,
What about backup?
one of our initial concerns about this industry was taking power off the grid. When we're hearing there's insufficient power for development. So my thinking here is encourage renewable energy, replacement power. And, you know, getting that sort of investment in the town.
well, that would be a good incentive for renewables, if the state will be bigger if we renewable.
But then again,
One of the-
require other business.
Right.
Anything above a megawatt would have to be renewable energy that you put in, is that what you're saying? If you were to go above a megawatt, you would have to produce that with green energy as part of that project.
Or you could put 50% green energy. Put a threshold in there. Or a sliding threshold every year.
And then that does give incentive to whoever is actually really interested in this to do something like that.
And I like that primarily too, because one of the challenges of data centers and the Lansing one is a perfect example. Is, you know, the state has these clean energy goals. And if you start putting in facilities, even if they're generating their own power. That are generating their power using, say, natural gas. Or worse, coal. You know, the state is not getting closer to its clean energy goals, right? And so, yeah.
So I call the question on the 5,000 square foot thing still stands and we haven't voted on that yet.
1 to 10.
Is that a modification? I don't understand.
I think you have 10 votes at 10,000.
So I've been no to the.
You want
To 5,000.
We can vote for 3 or for 5.
It's for 5. I don't know why we didn't vote on that. It got changed. If you're gonna amend it, and amend it.
Say that again?
If you don't know, call the question, but.
And so do you want, so I guess the question, all right, let's do it this way. We had 4 that voted. Well, John said he didn't care. He's fine with either one.
So he wants to call for 5. He wants to vote.
So
for
who
5.
wants to keep it at 5,
Or who wants to have a maximum of 5?
maximum of 5,
Or
Maximum of
is it a
5.
maximum of 5?
maximum of 5.
And I'll argue that, sending this to the town board,
Easy.
going upwards in number is not gonna make it any easier for them to deal with the public, comments that they'll be receiving. And we went from 5 to 10, when the feedback we've already received is that people don't want it at all, is the general feeling. So I just feel like you're making it a little tougher for the town board to
Good point.
move forward here.
But if we put in there's a cap at 1 megawatt, and that if there's anything above that, there's incentives to go to green energy. There's good things that come along with that, I guess, and there are limitations. 10,000 square feet is not that big of a space, to be honest. You know, we build spaces that are way bigger than that all the time. This room itself is.
How big is the town hall?
It's not a square.
It's not a square.
What?
I mean, for a house, it's big, but for an actual commercial building, it's not that big.
Well, this room is probably 50 by 50, correct? 2,500?
At least.
Yeah, it's probably 25, maybe.
This room is
Maybe
probably
2,000,
2,500.
yeah.
I'd
What?
say bigger.
I would guess 3,000 for
This room is 3,000. See, that's the other thing to think about. So this room is 3,000 square feet.
That's not.
It's not that much, and that's what, you know, I see 8,000 square feet things every day, all day. It's not that much space, to be
Not big.
honest, yeah.
This room seems like plenty of room to operate a small business.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 small businesses.
When are you gonna get started?
Speak of the rate, right after the subdivided.
Okay, so.
So we're at 10,
Sounds we're at 10.
right?
Are we?
Just keep in mind, it's against all of all of the ZAG, all of the public comments we've received too.
It does go.
All of the ZAG and everything goes against all the input, they said 5,000 at a max and would be wanted us to look at going potentially lower.
That's the bad thing. I can go with John, I'll do that, that's the bad thing. Pick a number.
I
And flip a coin.
I don't know, I guess I would be back to 5, but.
Flip flop here.
Well, Bill convinced me that.
I mean,
So is it 5,000 of store, like computer space, or is that the whole building? That's the question, I guess.
let's do computer space.
Of computer space, I mean, that makes.
It doesn't have to be the whole building.
Because if you want to make an actual building as a business, you would need more space beyond that.
Yep.
You have to have space around the servers, that, you're not gonna get that much into
So
5,000.
server space 500.
Actual server rack space is 500.
Hard to define.
It is.
Yeah, but you try.
It'd be easier to go on the building footprint and it would be
So
on server
that's why I'm
space.
saying 5,000 is quite small.
Right back to where we started.
Yep.
Okay. Here's the. So how I'm gonna call it again. Who's at 10,000? I think I'm still at 10,000.
Yeah, I'm at 10,000. Can go either way.
Okay,
Raise your hand, get it over.
so who's at 5,000?
Move the 5.
Two.
5,000
John,
max.
go either way.
5,000 max is what.
And I think Brad is probably at 5,000 max.
He's got his hand up.
I'm at 500 for an accessory use only.
Oh,
No,
500.
I think we're, and John could go either way.
I voted for 5 and I voted for 10.
All right, so let's,
You can leave it up to the town board.
we can leave it up to the town board.
We're stuck between 5 and 10.
It's up to them anyway.
It is up to them. That's the question early on.
We had 4 vote for 10.
And we got 4 votes for 5. How's that working?
Yeah.
Voting twice. It's all up to you.
Let's keep it at 5,000 for now.
All right. So I pulled my vote from 10.
Okay, all right, let's put it at 5,000. All right. Cause this is all gonna go to the town board anyway too, but, and they're gonna have public hearings on it.
So is
Any
the,
other?
is the number that limit in there already? Or do we have to add that?
If it's not, we would make
Okay,
sure,
it's gonna be-
because we're talking about 5,000 square foot, 1 megawatt
Okay, but
of IT power capacity. IT load is what it is. It's measured in megawatts of IT load.
Subject to a yearly review.
And that also helps, so by doing it on IT load. It helps with your idea of a co-located, like a business with the data
Oh,
center.
that's true. Yeah.
Because we're talking about megawatt of IT load. Not total building draw,
Okay.
right? So if,
Hard to enforce.
yeah,
And besides that, the rest of the building would be trivial.
it would be trivial. You're absolutely right.
Very good.
Okay, so 1 megawatt, all right.
Yeah, and I wouldn't bring this back manual. I would say something in the ordinance like if the applicant wants to change the service size, it has to come back for custody term. It creates administrative overhead that we don't do for.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's all part of the special use process, right?
Yeah.
So they can define special use.
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Yep. There are limitations on noise and heat. There are no limitations on water. Does anybody want to change any of those things?
I think it should be water, but that's me, so. Just because the fans are so noisy. That's what everybody complains about. They're cool.
Well, they complain about the noise until they run out of water.
But if it's a closed circuit, closed loop.
Well, and actually, this,
We're not saying they can't use those.
we're not saying they can't use, because this just says. Public-private well water shall not be used for direct single pass or evaporative cooling.
To be clear, direct single pass is like they pass it through the machine, it picks up heat and then they pour it.
And they dump it out.
And they dump it out.
And evaporative is where you have a cooling tower, and you're using water that evaporates.
Right.
So they can't do
Right.
either. So if
Right.
they wanna have some closed loop system, at the end of the day, they're gonna have to air cool it.
Yeah, they're gonna fan with the radiator.
They gotta get it somewhere.
And this is light industrial, this isn't in a residential
It's
neighborhood.
in an industrial zone. There are other businesses.
I mean, the armory makes plenty of noise down the road.
Who does?
The armory.
Well,
Yeah, they're always, they're trying to
Shooting the
practice.
tanks and stuff?
Yeah.
Stormwater requirements.
You hear machine guns all the way around.
I'm telling you, there's some things that don't make sense, that we should. I think we should, well, one of them. Section E1V. Is a mystery, it says that. No more than 20% of the heat can be rejected outside if it's cooler than 40 degrees out there. How in the world that makes any sense is beyond me. For starters, all of the heat gets rejected outside all the time.
Yes.
There's no other place.
Every heat pump you have, see on.
That's why you wouldn't want to send it out when it's cold. So I would pull that, does.
Good.
There's another one in there that talks about, the interior temperature can't exceed 120 degrees. And that people can't work in a space in temperature over 90. That's not part of site plan review, that's,
No.
that's.
The OSHA.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be talking about things like that. There's also a requirement under, the electrical restrictions that. In addition to NICEAG issuing a statement that it won't, create a problem with the electric supply. That there will be a third party inspection to verify the compliance with the system. That's not a simple thing for a third party to do, they would have to have detailed understanding of NICEAG system and.
Right.
I think that's impossible when we pull out.
So which one is that?
That one is
Oh,
E2.
so you would pull the whole thing out?
I wouldn't require a
Verification.
third party inspection, I think that's a very difficult thing.
Okay.
I think it's fine for NICEAG to say yes, our system can accommodate this level.
It's the last sentence.
Got it? Any other comments in here? Safety, there's fire restriction, you know, fire pieces. Renewable energy expectations, we could strengthen that if we thought it was useful, but that's also part of the special use permit process.
Do you need to address battery storage? Or potential battery storage?
Do it to address backup. Backup power.
Not true.
You gotta address backup power. We're gonna allow diesel generators.
That's in the ordinance that they can use diesel, but
Only for backup power,
For how long?
power.
as long as the line power's out.
They don't pay their bill.
Power is not out. You're looking up hand and bill.
That's a good point, Chris, is battery.
But isn't it already addressed elsewhere?
Well, it's not yet, but it will be with. the
Yeah.
battery.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that just comes in that part.
But they won't have the land.
Is that what-
If we're limited to a megawatt, the battery capacity isn't gonna be that
That much.
big.
But
Yeah.
there's not that much room in those industrial areas,
That's right.
so they're not,
It's not like they're gonna have these huge.
they won't even. They won't even put the septic, so.
I mean, you're not gonna have like a container sized battery bank, right? So it's.
Well, the battery ordinance needs to address that because we currently don't, and
Right.
I believe what everyone's saying, that batteries are gonna become much more common, and we need to have an ordinance to address that.
Right.
There's, you know, I have several, you know, batteries in my house. You know, I got a number of UPSs. Granted, they're small, and the UPSs today use mostly lead acid batteries, not lithium, but. You know, who knows, right?
I brought it up as I had a note from the ZAG meeting where it said. Battery storage potential limit for site plan review, just so it was clear. Well, if they have
The battery ordinance is gonna put a lower limit on when that ordinance kicks in, right? If we're talking about
Okay.
batteries over a certain capacity are gonna have to kick into that ordinance.
That's fine.
Do you even want battery storage in industrial? You could just say no batteries, self-managed.
Well, I don't think you can say no batteries because again, you have to define what a battery is. I
That's
mean,
true.
you know, pretty much all. Yeah, all computer center, I mean, TC3's got a bunch of batteries in their data centers, you know, that they use for backup power.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to. And now granted that most of these places, like many of the buildings at Cornell and buildings like TC3 and even my house. I have a backup generator, so the batteries only need to power things for a relatively short period of time until the generator kicks on. So you don't need these huge
That's all they're capable of doing.
monster, you
For
don't.
an hour, maybe.
Yeah, you don't need, you know, they're not gonna need like I said, they're not gonna need a container sized battery bank. To do a 1 megawatt facility, right? But
I think it should be addressed in the battery section when we get to that.
Yeah.
Because then it's not duplicated, because then you have to change both.
They can know that.
okay. No. Anything else?
You know, that's pretty good.
So I think we need to, so then the next steps are, we can't vote on this tonight because we gotta change this, because we came up with a number of changes, right? So.
Unless you want to type it out.
I don't want to type it out right now, it's 8 o'clock. I think the next steps are we get this back to Nan, the information from tonight's meeting, she can come up with another draft for us to look at next month. And then. Or at the ZAG, if we can review it at the ZAG meeting. And actually, if we have a quorum at the ZAG meeting, we could actually vote on sending it to the town hall from there. Or it's gonna have to be put off to next month. Till October, before we can send it to the town.
No, limit is, this is a moratorium limit taken.
The ZAG would be.
Yes.
very good.
What is the date on that?
Yeah, isn't the moratorium
When's the moratorium on?
of creeping up on?
I think it's February.
Didn't they say January or February?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so still need a public meeting, still need town board.
Yep, still gotta go to town board.
And-
That's why I'd like to do it at ZAG if we can. Which is a week away, right? Yep. It's next week.
So, Tony, just a general comment, for Nan, she should go through the ordinance. There are other places in there where she repeats things like you need to meet the fire code. That, we shouldn't say things like that. We shouldn't repeat language from other codes that the project needs to meet. We shouldn't duplicate code languages as they change. And she does that in a number of cases, so I would ask her just to go through the text and make sure she's not doing it.
Because that's in our site plan review.
Okay.
So like the noise ordinance is cited, but we also say it can't exceed 68 dB.
Correct.
That's duplication, is that what?
Yeah, because then when you're gonna change the noise ordinance, it's complicated.
You gotta change the other one.
Yeah, don't repeat things that are requirements that appear elsewhere in any.
Yeah, exactly.
We
So
should do that.
E12 should be eliminated, I guess.
If that's,
Well, it should just reference, the noise ordinance.
It does, E11 references the noise ordinances, then E12 just repeats what's.
But is it repeating what's in the noise ordinance or is it setting a different?
No,
standard?
68,
It's just
68 is
repeating, I agree with you. If it's just repeating the other code, right, we should not.
Yeah.
and that happens a number of places.
Yeah, so even, Tony, even two, yeah, as Dan said, should be struck out. Yeah.
You want to, all right. So I expect there's gonna be a lively discussion at the Zoom. Yeah, again.
Well, I don't know. What's all about?
So I need to get this to Nan like tomorrow. So that she can send it. Cause I need to send out an agenda for the ZAG meeting, like tomorrow.
You probably generate it by Monday.
Yeah.
You want to volunteer?
Okay. All right.
You do like 1,000 words a minute.
All right. So speaking of that. All right, so we know what we're doing here, right? ZAG meeting's coming up. Did you want to say anything? Well. Okay. So I will send out the agenda for the ZAG meeting, hopefully tomorrow. And then, we'll send this out to Nan. With the adjustments and see if she can get it back to us by Monday. We'll see what she can do.
Hey, Tony?
Yeah. Yes.
For the ZAG agenda for next week, the
Yep.
2nd, are you gonna include the animal containment proposal that Ray has been sending around and that I made comments on?
That could either be for next month's planning board meeting or the ZAG meeting. It's a zoning issue.
I could put it on the ZAG. And if we get, I'm just concerned, it depends on how much time we spend on this at the ZAG meeting.
Right.
I think we can probably put it on the agenda for the ZAG meeting.
Then now the phase one update.
Good question.
Well, yeah,
I missed the question.
prior to the
Right,
going into phase 2.
prior to going in phase 2.
What's this gonna, for next week, for next week's meeting?
The two agenda items are gonna be
Okay.
review and final approval, hopefully, of the draft to go to the town board on data centers.
I mean, it shouldn't take too long in the ZAG meeting because we only changed a
And
few lines
And then,
and we debated it thoroughly.
and then the question becomes, are we gonna have a quorum?
I can be there.
Yeah, but the.
Chris, you good?
I'll be there this time.
All right. So the,
Holidays are over.
yeah, okay, all right. And then, yeah, I think we could put this other one, because it was distributed, right? It was sent to everybody, and the comments were made, yes. So to answer your question, Pat, I know that was a long way to answer it, but I will put it on the agenda for the ZAG meeting.
And can I ask
Okay.
a couple of questions about the animal confinement property?
Sure.
Ray, has anybody talked to the owner?
The owner of what?
of the property that that's in people are complaining about. For the animal containment.
Multiple times. Why are you asking?
I don't know the background, so,
Yeah, oh no, it's been going on for 6, 7 years. We've
okay.
been
Is there
very
any,
patient.
so this is an older subdivision, are there any deed restrictions that would not allow this to happen? Do you know that?
I do not know the person.
Okay,
It's an NR district, a neighborhood residential.
once a lot of older subdivisions were built. Because there was no zoning at the time, the developer would put deed restrictions on there that say, no, the property could not be used for commercial use. And it might say that the property can only use for domestic animals. So if that's the case, that's one way to solve it as a neighborhood. You have to go after, but not the town. So there might be deed, so somebody should pull the deed on the property and see what.
Yeah,
if there's-
I own one of the houses right next to the issue house. And I don't recall anything about commercial or non-commercial use or whatever. I know there was yeah, it's not related. We had viewing rights of Cuga Lake until all of our trees grew up, and I think that went away.
So
Anyway.
but that was one way you could solve this problem, and then the other one would. To change the zoning ordinance, this guy's grandfather. What do you?
No, I would insist it not be grandfathered.
So isn't this a conflict of interest?
What's that?
Since she's a landowner.
Oh, and
I would still can go by the rules.
just asking questions, because I'm wondering, where's this gonna go? Because you're gonna pass this ordinance and this guy's still gonna be able to have his animals there because his grandfather didn't have animals.
So if you saw my comments, I suggested we make the proposal longer to add more ordinances from the town of Colony, because it sounded like they had a neighbor that was abusive to the neighborhoods and also their animals. This is an animal welfare issue mainly. And if you can read my email, I wanted to add chickens and also to augment the NR district definition to say no livestock.
I was trying to nip something in the bud before next meeting, because those are questions that I have, but.
Sure, you could send them to me in an email. I'd be happy to answer them.
Problem with that, but I don't know. And you wouldn't know, because you don't know the deed restrictions, but it is, but then what, then would the lawyer know about grandfather?
Well, that's how you can construct the ordinance. You can allow grandfather. Fade out something. Wow.
You'd have to have a sunset clause. You couldn't just
Wow.
ban it out.
That's hard at least.
I mean, they do that over one person. seems like
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
So anyway, we will put it on the ZAG meeting if it is part of this. It was not part of phase 1. But as Ray said, the town board would like to take it up before we start into phase 2.
Yep. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, wow, we're way over. Planning department update.
I just give a quick update that the CDBG grant application went in last week for Dance Rock Village. Sending public sewer out there.
Good.
So it'd be a $1.3 million.
Cool.
Somebody's giving us feedback.
Thank you. Boxes are lighting up, so I don't know where it's coming from.
That's good, right? That's what happened.
And then I could just make a quick report on the mobile home park out at Kirk Road. You know, we now have Shelley and Bill's positions have been rehired, and so we have back up fully staffed. And so there's been an effort out there to work with the landowner, the mobile home park property management, and they're doing intensively better garbage mowing and getting safe egress steps on each of the units. So it's a bit of a transformation out there. So it's really nice to see. It's probably one of the worst mobile home parks as far as that.
Where's this one?
Kirk Road.
Okay.
Use that as a model.
Yep.
For other.
Move throughout the town.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Town board updates?
We're gonna have some progress finally on Route 13 and Freeze Road bridges. T was really dragging their feet and telling us, don't expect to hear anything until October, and well, I discussed this with Ray and thought, would it be tasteful if I rattled their cages a little? And so I wrote a strongly worded email, and it worked. They got back to us in about 10 days, and we are waiting for both projects to be allowed to put them out to bid. We think we've done our work to get them ready to put out the bid, and DOT got back to us with the adjustments we need to put those bids out. So I think October should see both those projects going out for bid, don't you?
Nice.
So it sounds like, you know, more of the same, but this is not the same. We're finally getting some cooperation out of them, and that is kind of a great thing. These projects have dragged on so long that it's probably going to be reasonable to ask for additional funding for the Freeze Road Bridge to make it happen. Also had a productive conversation with, I thought it was productive with the DEC about the Dryden Lake Dam. I think I gave you guys an update about this last meeting. You know, they maintain a position that they want to get out of the dam business. You can interpret that adjective however you want. But I reminded them of our occupancy and use agreement, which we negotiated years ago and then renegotiated in 2017. And you know, a reading of that makes it very clear that the state will maintain the integrity of the dam. It's black and white. And I read that to the regional director, and she said, "What are you reading from?" You know, it almost sounded like they weren't familiar with it, and then at least that was my take. And I said, "This is not, you know, are you walking away?" I just said, "Are you walking away from the agreement? Because if you are, we need to know that. But if you're not, then you know your obligation spelled out here. We've built basically an ecosystem of economic development, homeowners, recreation, and you know, the environment. You know, it's a refuge for birds, and you know, to change that is to change the face of a significant part of our town. And you know, we had an agreement that you wouldn't do that for 25 years, and kind of left it there. Gonna work with our town lawyer and send them a letter. That's the next step. And I discussed it with our town attorney, and he thinks that what I said was accurate. So more to come on this. Kind of you know, I'm waiting to see what they say back, but they made an agreement, they signed it. These things, I went through negotiating one of these for the Game Farm Road on a rail trail, and it's like pulling teeth getting a DEC occupancy and use agreement in place. They are meticulous, and the idea that they are stepping away from one just I find astounding. So that's the town's position right now. It's their dam.
No, I think you're smart.
But I don't know how else to read this, you know, how else are we supposed to develop as a community if we've got a 25-year agreement and they're not honoring it? It says maintain the integrity.
And they also approved $1 million 6 years ago, though. I mean, they allocated the money, but when they first said the dam was failing.
Yeah, $1 million, but you know, I think I shared the estimate with a few of you.
Yeah, three or whatever.
The $3 million, but that's just, they hired a consultant to come up with a price, good for them. You know, maybe that's right, maybe it's not, but we just want the integrity honored. I
So
don't
what
care.
was the 25-year lease agreement was for $1,
Oh, I don't think we exchanged money at all in that.
but it says in the paperwork it's $1, right?
I don't, we didn't do that with Game Farm. I don't remember $1.
They say it's the best dollar it's been.
No, because we step up, we do something, they do something, and that's the agreement.
Yeah, I think. Well, that's good, that's good news.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the position of the town, and yeah, I've reached out to our state reps about this as well. And I wanna make sure they're on board, and I can't imagine them not backing us 100%.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I sent draft minutes with the agenda for the 28th meeting. Did anybody read them? Is there any changes to them? Actually, the 28th meeting, I think there was only 4 of us there, right? I think it was,
Brad, yeah. Yeah.
I know I think there were just 4 here.
Yeah.
That was, who was here? It was me, Craig, Bill, and Brad. Any changes to the minutes? It looks like,
Brad's left the meeting.
looks like Brad's gone.
His hand is still up though. Brad, yeah,
That's the one.
Brad's gone.
Well, call on him.
It's changes.
Kind of vote in person.
Pat has her hand up. I think. Oh, that's just a figure, okay.
Yeah, I was at that meeting, I think. But I wasn't a member yet. of the
Right.
board.
She was at the meeting. And she is a member now. And Brad's gone, so I can activate her. So there are 4 of us here that were at the meeting. Did any of you 4,
For voting members,
did you,
yes, it looks good.
any issues with the minutes?
Sorry, I didn't look at them.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes. All in favor? Okay. All right, so the minutes are approved. Last item. We need an acting chair for the October 23rd planning board. I will be at the ZAG meeting. I will not be at the October 23rd meeting. I can meet with Ray and do the agenda and get all that out. we just need someone to be the acting chair for that meeting. Is there anybody gonna could anybody volunteer for that, or do you wanna not do it now and that night whoever's here is gonna have to vote on a chair for that night?
I nominate Judd.
Nominate Chris.
Probably.
I can do it. It'll be as well.
Okay, Frank, like I said, I'll send out the agenda and all that, and really it's just running the meeting, you know. It's be great, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I will be in South Carolina and I probably won't even be able to join via Zoom, so.
I need to take it for my food. I just want to.
In executive session?
Yes.
You have to stop the recording. Wait, let me just.
Hold on, let me
Wait a
just make sure, is everything else, are we done with everything else?
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
topic?
Yes.
You need to vote for the executive session.
Got at the top.
I just,
The topic is communication through email by the board.
okay,
That's how we do it.
got it.
Need to be inspected section.
We don't,
Just don't need me.
okay, I just think in general, a good policy is to, show support for people.
Oh,
outside of the-
You know, I meant to bring that up earlier when we started the,
I was gonna bring
and
that up.
I forgot to. Yes. As a general rule, when we receive emails about what we're reviewing, board members should not be replying with any kind of insinuation about how they might vote or have any kind of discussion. It's actually best unless the thing that's appropriate is if you have a question. So in other words, if somebody sends us something and you want a clarification on their point, it's certainly okay to ask the question. You know, what did you mean by this? Or something along those lines. But to discuss the issue or insinuate how you might, you know, what your stance is on an issue or anything along those lines, those should not really be being discussed via email outside of these meetings.
And the other thing you got, there is a lawsuit. Dates, so you gotta be careful.
Yep, okay.
Thanks, that's a better.
Yes, and I thank you for because I actually, I meant to talk about that as part of my intro to talking about the zoning thing, the results of the, because that was one of the things that happened was there were some comments back and forth as from one of the emails that came in on the data center. So you're absolutely right. We should, just as a general rule, planning board members should not be engaging in email conversations about, you know, a given topic that is before us. Again, perfectly fine to ask questions, clarifying questions, asking for more data, those kind of things, perfectly fine.
And just
Right, correct, correct. Right, all these discussions around things that are in front of us should be happening here at the meetings. And yes, thank you for bringing that up. I meant to mention it earlier. Yep, I think we're good. So we don't need an executive session. Good. Oh.
You weren't the only one.
You weren't the only one.
So you could
You could have kept your mouth shut. Yeah.
not know anything.
And again, the purpose wasn't to call out any one person in particular or scold anybody. It's just in general, best practice. We should not be having discussion about things for us outside of this meeting. But you know, especially via email or those kind of things.
Hearing too is. You ask a question, they're telling you what they can. Ask a question.
Yeah.
Oh, not be buttered.
No.
That's right. Takes a little break, take at least 3
How are you? All right, we're good. We're a little late tonight. Sorry, guys. Thank you very much. We're adjourned. Good night.